Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In the guitar world, there are a lot of controversial figures. One of them is Joe Bonamassa. Joe Bonamassa is a blues rock guitarist, vocalist, songwriter, etc. He basically does it all. He's definitely one of the most successful guitarists of the past few decades. He's been relevant for a very long time. He's been appearing in a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube videos, and a lot of magazines. However, with that level of fame, there comes a lot of negativity that goes with it. So I thought I should make a video basically presenting my own opinion on the topic because I've been watching him for a long time and I've watched hours of him talking about guitar gear, guitar collection, etc. So let's get into it. Now, what I have noticed is that a lot of people criticize that he has a huge guitar and amp collection. He basically collects a lot of amps, a lot of guitars, and all like guitar gear related items. Now, this comes from the idea that is based on the just people on the internet talking that if you can really play, you don't really need all that expensive, collectible, vintage, high-end guitar gear. Now, whether this statement is correct or not, the fact is that Joe Bonamassa is actually a very successful guitarist and a very successful musician that makes money from doing what he loves. The guy has been making a lot of albums since the year 2000 and he's been touring and making money from what he loves. So this is to me like a dream come true to any guitarist, which is being able to play the music and buy all the gear that you ever want. Also, in many of his interviews, he would always make the statement that you can really rule the world and make a number one hit using a standard guitar. You don't need all that vintage, expensive items. However, he chooses to buy them because, well, he can afford it and he is willing to pay that extra money for the better gear. Now, we have to be honest. A lot of the vintage gear can be really awesome. It has a great vibe. It plays really well, better than a standard issue guitar that you can buy from the store right now. However, on the other hand, you can have a lot of collectors that buy all that gear and they just keep it private. So no one can see it or play it or hear it or being used as it was intended to be in the first place. Remember, these are all tools. So given the choice, I would always choose if an actual guitarist has that collection, because that would mean that it will be played, people will see it. I would be interested in seeing that vintage gear being played on stage or on videos. This is much better than disappearing in a collection and not being seen for maybe even decades to come. The other thing is, I'm gonna rant a little bit here. A lot of people on the internet have one opinion, okay? If you deviate from that standard, okay, let's go to standard because, you cannot deviate from it. If you deviate from it, you will get a lot of negativity, a lot of criticism by almost everyone. Now, for me, I have a very small channel and I still get my fair share of negative comments, negative feedback and criticism that is not written in the best way. People can take these things very seriously and can be very rude when they're presenting their opinions. Me personally, I don't mind if you have a different opinion from mine. As long as we can have a good discussion, I don't mind that. That's part of the fun. However, someone like Joe Bonamassa, who's hundreds of times more famous than any of us, will probably get way more criticism, way more negativity. And I think that's a little bit unfair. Now, Joe is very opinionated. He's very knowledgeable. So whenever you have a lot of knowledge about vintage gear, you will always have your own opinions and your own takes because he has experienced a lot throughout the years of him collecting guitars. I think he started collecting guitars and gear in general since he was basically a teenager. So because of that knowledge, the guy basically knows more about gear than 99% of all people on the internet. And this happens because he was collecting for a long time. And the thing is about guitar collecting is that you need to know a lot so you don't get scammed and you know how much something is worth. And you can actually negotiate based on knowledge, the best price. So with that experience and that level of knowledge, he actually makes a lot of videos of him talking from his house. He actually has two locations where he keeps his vintage gear. It's called Nerdville. Anyway, and there is two. So he would actually present the gear and would talk about it and give his opinion and just give you like a little bit of a history lesson, which I think is something very valuable. A lot of that gear was never seen before he had his hands on it and might never be seen in a long time after he gives it away or sells it or is no longer with him. So with that, you can actually know a lot about vintage gear if you're interested. Me personally, I'm very interested in vintage gear, just knowing information about it. It's just an interest of mine. So he presents it in a very nice way. He's very clear, he's funny, and he just knows how to convey information very clearly, which I think is a very valuable thing. So of course I would rather listen to someone who's experienced like him rather than read on forums or the gear page. So to keep it really short, I think Joe Bonamassa's presence in the guitar community is very needed, and it does way more good than bad. And I think he plays a pivotal point in connecting the vintage world and market with the modern market, because a lot of his signature model guitars, amps, etc., you name it, and that would give it a chance to be a copy that you and I can go out and buy rather than try to find the vintage equivalent, which would probably be 100 times more expensive. So I think that's it for this video. It's a very simple idea from my side. John Bonamassa is awesome. All right, so thank you for watching. Stay positive and make sure you share this video on the gear page.